This is the newsroom for today, Thursday, April 1, 2021. We're broadcasting to you on E1 Scar TV, NTN, and Tarsi TV in Bartica. In the headlines, politician James Bond, the former CEO of NICOLÁS, Calvin Heath London, and two businessmen are slapped with fraud charges.
I looked at the charge, and I believe the charges are lawful, they're foolish.
The Ministry of Housing signs contracts for a $2.3 billion Eccles to Mandela Avenue 4-lane highway. The Ministry of Health will be cracking down on doctors who are not serving the public health system. The government has approved the reopening of the scrap metal trade. In tonight's feature, we take a look at one way a traditional Guyanese crossbone is made, and in sport, Anand Sanasi bows out of CWI presidential race, and West Indies set Sri Lanka huge final day target in the second test. With the news, I'm Avinash Ramzan. Thanks for joining us. We started by telling you that politician James Bond, the former CEO of NICOLÁS, Calvin Heath London, and two businessmen appeared in court on Thursday to answer several charges of conspiracy to defraud the state. Fariza Hanif has the details.
People's National Congress Reform member and attorney-at-law James Bond and former Chief Executive Officer of the National Industrial and Commercial Investments Limited, NICOLÁS, Calvin Heath London, along with two businessmen, appeared before Chief Magistrate Anne McLennan on Thursday, charged with conspiracy to defraud the state. The businessmen have been identified as the director of A to Z Pharmaceuticals, Medical Supplies and Equipment Incorporated, Eddie Dulal, and principal of Arkin Group Incorporated, Jermaine Richmond. They were all charged for the offense, which alleged that between August 1st, 2017 and November 30th, 2020, they conspired with persons known and unknown to defraud NICOLÁS and its sole shareholder, the Government of Guyana, of property interests in land located at Peters Hall on the east bank of Demerara. It is alleged that they committed the act without the necessary board and cabinet approval and for purposes other than that of NICOLÁS. It is further alleged that Heath London, Bond, and Richmond conspired with persons known and unknown to defraud NICOLÁS and the government of lands known as Plot A1, A2, A3, and A4 at Peters Hall. Heath London was not present in court due to him being out of the jurisdiction. Bond, Dulal, and Richmond were not required to plead to the charges. Bond was released on a total of $150,000 bail, while Dulal and Richmond were released on $100,000 bail each. The matter is adjourned to April 19, 2021. The men were represented by attorneys-at-law Sabotage Kisoon, Nigel Hughes, and Darren Wade. Wade, who spoke with the media outside the court, described the charges as garbage.
I looked at the charge, and I believe the charges are lawful, they're foolish, because any law students will tell you that a company has its own legal personality from a shareholder. So the charge is garbage. I don't understand how they could form such a charge. Any law students will tell you that from the Canadian case of Solomon and Solomon, every company has its own personality. The only difference between a company and us is that we could breed, but the person has the same rights. Our company has the same rights as us in relation to instituting and defending charges. So for them to add the state of Guyana as the sole shareholder in the charge, I believe that is very unusual.
Last year, Bond, along with the three other defendants who were all at the center of several deals, were questioned by police and the Special Organized Crime Unit, SOCU. Bond is accused of benefiting from land deals emanating from the sale of state lands, while purportedly looking after the interests of the NICOLÁS, which was presiding over the leasing of the lands. Bond also reportedly received a $1 million payment from Trinidad logistics company Lennox Petroleum for the sale of 10 acres of land leased to Arkin Group Incorporated. In that deal, Arkin and its principal leased from NICOLÁS 20.3 acres of land at Peters Hall on May 9, 2018 for a 20-year period at $16,224 per year. Arkin later sold the 10 acres to local logistics company Glass Holdings Incorporated on October 10, 2019 for $200 million. Instead of the principals of the companies receiving the payment, it was Bond who allegedly received the money. For the newsroom, Fariza Hanif.
Now, plans to reduce the traffic congestion along the east bank of Demerara are moving ahead with the signing of $2.3 billion in contracts for the Eccles East Bank Demerara to Mandela Avenue Georgetown Highway. The contracts were signed Thursday during a simple ceremony held in the boardroom of the Central Housing and Planning Authority. Kurt Campbell reports.
With roadworks well advanced on a road link between Diamond to Eccles along the east bank of Demerara, the Ministry of Housing and Water signed contracts with several firms on Thursday for the continuation of the roadway as a fully concrete four-lane highway from Eccles to Mandela, Georgetown. The roadworks, which have been divided into 6 lots, will commence on April 14, 2021 and is expected to be completed by the end of the year on December 10, 2021. The project will see a 4-lane highway being constructed featuring a dual carriageway of 2 lanes each. With the combined total of the winning bids amounting to $2.3 billion, the scope of works includes land clearing, construction of drains and culverts, paving, and the installation of solar street lights and bridges. The project is seen as a direct government intervention to the daily traffic congestion along the East Bank corridor. Back in January, President Irfan Ali first announced the construction of the 4-lane highway, promising that once completed, it will significantly ease the traffic congestion. The design for the highway was done in-house at the Ministry of Housing and Water and boasts of being the first fully concrete highway being built in Guyana. The signing, which was done by Chief Executive Officer of the Central Housing and Planning Authority, Sherwin Greaves, was also witnessed by Ministers of Housing and Water Colin Crowell and Susan Rodriguez. The housing officials all charged the contractors to put their best foot forward and deliver on time.
Design for this highway was all done in-house, which speaks to the quality that comes out from the projects department of the Central Housing and Planning Authority. The contractors awarded today are from Guyana, Trinidad and Barbados, and Brazil, which also speaks good to the cooperation amongst us in the region. What I'm extremely pleased about is this is the first 4-lane highway that will be done in the country that will be done fully concrete. And we're happy to know that it's being done by this agency. So we are like the test tube. And so I'm imploring on each of you here today who have been awarded these contracts to put more than your best foot forward.
Since we have taken office, and even prior to that, our government has been relentless in ensuring that that agenda is pushed and that development comes to the lives of every single Guyanese, and that our country, the landscape, and the lives of Guyanese are transformed over the next 5 years.
Therefore, when we're complete with the 6 contracts that are here today, that is from Eccles to Mandela, complemented with the stretch from Great Diamond to Eccles, we are speaking about 18,800 beneficiaries directly, or households that are within the remit of our housing scheme along that stretch of the East Bank.
Now, the Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs, Anil Nandlal, says that steps are being taken to overturn the High Court default judgment, ordering Vice President Bharat Jagdeo to pay the former Housing Minister, Annette Ferguson, more than $20 million in damages for libel. Shakima Day tells us more.
According to the Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs Anil Nandlal, the Vice President Bharat Jagdeo did not get a chance to file a defense in the libel case brought against him by the former Housing Minister Annette Ferguson. In providing an update on the case via a video posted to his Facebook page, Nandlal said that the judgment was obtained on March 21, 2021 and was granted without the knowledge of the VP or his representing counsel. Libel proceedings were filed by Ferguson in January 2020 against Jagdeo and the Guyana Times newspaper over statements he made at a press conference. He had alleged that she owned 3 plots of land at Eccles, East Bank, Demerara, which she acquired while in government. An injunction seeking to muzzle the then opposition leader was later denied by the High Court. These proceedings, according to the AG, concluded in late February, weeks before the country voted in the March 2, 2020 general and regional elections.
Now, you would appreciate that the 24th of February was simply a week before elections, March the 2nd elections. A defense was supposed to be filed at or about the same time. But as you know, Mr. Jagdeo and I both were involved in the political campaign that was ongoing. We had several meetings with GCOM during that period of time. We had meetings with the international observers. We had meetings with parties, political parties. The campaign trail was hot, and then the elections came. Then after the elections, you had this series of events that unfolded which required my attention, more particularly, as well as Mr. Jagdeo, but the country is well aware of the series of events that follow those elections.
Those ensuing events were said to have hampered the VP from presenting his defense on the case, though one was prepared to be submitted. Ferguson later filed an application for default judgment in March, leading to the ruling.
The normal practice is that that application is normally served on the other side, so that the other side can get an opportunity to come forward and offer an explanation as to why the defense was not filed, rather than take that ultimate step of granting judgment against a party without his knowledge and without his lawyer's knowledge and in their absence.
On another note, the Attorney General pointed out too that no hearing was held to assess the evidence. As in the ordinary course of events, evidence needs to be assessed by a hearing to which a defendant is able to question and examine it. Nevertheless, with steps in place to address such cases, the AG noted that he is hopeful the Vice President will be able to present his defense in the case. Shakima Day for the Newsroom.
Still ahead on the Newsroom, the Ministry of Health will be cracking down on doctors who are not serving the public health system, and the government has approved the reopening of the scrap metal trade. This is the Newsroom. The government has approved the reopening of the scrap metal trade after a 6-month ban. The trade will be reopened on Thursday, April 8, 2021. The announcement was made during a meeting with scrap metal dealers. The head of the Customs Anti-Narcotics Unit, KANU, James Singh, Minister of Tourism, Industry and Commerce, Onish Waldron, and officers from the Guyana Revenue Authority held at the Artichon Conference Center. Isnella Patwa has the details.
Scrap metal dealers have been pleading with the government for months now to reopen the trade. A ban was implemented in September last year by the government as they embarked on an assessment of the trade. Minister of Tourism, Industry and Commerce, Onish Waldron, during a meeting with the dealers on Thursday at the Artichon Conference Center, said while the assessment is still ongoing, a decision was made to reopen the trade. 2 units have been established internally within the ministry and externally. The external unit will comprise officials from the Guyana Police Force, the Customs Anti-Narcotics Unit, Guyana Revenue Authority, and the ministry.
We took this long to get this unit, try to get it right, to make sure that we fill as many gaps that we saw existed in the previous operations of the trade.
Additionally, a document with recommendations and regulations for the trade has also been established. This document, which was approved by Cabinet, also outlines non-negotiable measures for the traders. Among the new measures is the authorized packing of scrap metal in a specific yard with 24-hour surveillance. This will also be boosted with the presence of KANU officers. Head of KANU, James Singh, said they are also willing to work with the traders pertaining to implementing best practices to the trade.
The role of the unit out of the Ministry of Business, scrap metal unit, or the correct name is not presented upon yet, is merely an extension of the Ministry of Business to inspect, to ensure what is actually going out is what is on the field. What is going into the container is what's on the field. GRA has their role, KANU has their role, as well as this unit. So when you're ready to load a container, everyone will be notified and everyone will be present.
Meanwhile, Minister Waldron also announced that only licensed traders will be allowed to export with the reopening of the trade. The minister also revealed that there will be no issuing of new licenses. This, she said, is to tighten the processes on the trade. Traders present at the meeting also spoke about the challenges they face and called for an extension to their export licenses.
It was indeed tough, right, to get by. It was very challenging because the expenses and so on remains the same, and you had no form of income coming in. So, you try to get by. Workers, everything has to be laid off. And it was extremely challenging to get by from then to now.
How do you feel about it now reopening?
I guess we all are excited, very excited. And this is what we were wanting for a very long time now.
Reporting for the newsroom, I am Isanella Patwell.
The Minister of Health, Dr. Frank Anthony, says he's aiming to put an end to the practice of doctors neglecting their duties in the public health care system because they're caught up with their private practice. Minister Anthony on Thursday, during his daily COVID-19 update, said he received reports of these doctors spending limited time at the public hospitals because they rush over to their private practice. Additionally, Dr. Anthony also dispelled reports by the opposition leader, Joseph Harman, and opposition member of parliament, Ganesh Mahipal, about several doctors who reportedly resigned from the West Demerara Regional Hospital.
What I can say is that we have a number of doctors who have been employed with us who would come in, they spend maybe an hour in the hospital, and then they run away to their private practice. This is something that we're working to curb because they're not serving the population in the public health system for which they're being paid. And if trying to correct that is making some people uneasy, and if it's making the opposition uneasy, well, then I'm happy to make them uneasy, because these doctors must, first of all, be there and serve the patients of the public institution. And I don't make any apologies for that. I have asked the authorities at the West Demerara Hospital whether or not they have received any such resignation. I'm told that about 3 weeks ago, one doctor had resigned. As of today, we haven't received any resignation from any doctor. So whatever it is at this point in time, we haven't seen those resignations.
The government's move to transition towards greater renewable energy use has seen a big boost in savings. Over the last 7 years, the Guyana Energy Agency, that's the GEA, facilitated the installation of more than 5 megawatts of new solar panels on the roofs of 287 government buildings, resulting in annual savings of $488 million. This is according to the GEA's Chief Executive Officer, Dr. Mahinda Sharma, during his presentation at a virtual conference titled Renewable Energy and Guyana, Opportunities for Investment, held on Thursday and hosted by the American Chamber of Commerce.
So over the last 7 years, my organization, the GEA, has installed rooftop solar on the rooftops of government buildings. These are largely grid-connected systems that do not necessarily always require batteries, so the costs are much lower. And we've done about 4.7 megawatts of capacity on about 287 buildings. Just some pictures to show you where this is at the Ministry of Education in Region 3. This is a 33 kilowatt system. This is the Lenora Fire Station. This is the National Insurance Scheme at Anna Regina. This is the NIS at Lenora. This is the Golden Grove Secondary School. This is the Bartica Hospital. So over the years, we've been tendering projects, and what we've been seeing is a gradual reduction in the cost. So if we look at back in 2012, when we did our first system at my office, at my building, it came in at $3.88 US cents per watt installed. And we actually got this down to 92 cents per watt in 2019 when we did our last tender of this scale.
The project, which commenced in 2012, also saw the avoidance of 6,023 tons of carbon emissions annually. Now, the Ministry of Labour on Thursday launched Occupational Safety and Health Month. Aside from a month-long observance aiding awareness to the wellness and safety of personnel in the workplace, the World Day for Safety and Health is observed annually on April 28 to promote the prevention of occupational accidents in the workplace. It is also being observed globally under the theme, Anticipate, Prepare and Respond to Crises. Sheena Henry reports.
Minister of Labour Joseph Hamilton, in his opening remarks at the launch of the event on Thursday at his Brickdam, Georgetown office, noted that fatalities in the workplace are not considered statistics, but they are considered human, as they are people with families and everyone is affected. He added that occupational health and safety will be a continuous activity, as the fundamental issue is figuring out how people can get to work and return home safely.
It is not the dollars and cents of the matter. It is the life and safety of people.
The 9 occupational safety and health offices that existed when Hamilton assumed office has increased to 31, which saw 22 persons being added. The minister further stated that after reviewing and interviewing applicants, they will be trained.
Every region, the person will have to belong to the region. So the officers of Region 7, 1, 8, and 9, they are recommended by the regional democratic councils. We will train them and send them back to work in their region. Region 4 will be subdivided, Georgetown, East Coast, East Bank. So officers will have specific tasks and duties.
He further noted that a plan to engage employees is in effect with the help of the trade union, as employees must know their rights. According to Hamilton, there will be no privileges, as both employers and employees will have to comply with the guidelines, noting that businesses must do everything possible to protect its workers. Meanwhile, Chairman of the Private Sector Commission, Nicholas Boyer, highlighted that without labor, Guyana will not be transformed. He said the safety of human capital is paramount.
And I see that now in my private sector colleagues who are making critical investments in their occupational health and safety systems, in their occupational health and safety trainings, in their occupational health and safety departments or units that carry out the training but also carry out the monitoring and enforcement.
The PSC president added that going forward, the culture of workplaces within the private sector will be aimed at making investments to become regionally and internationally competitive,
so that their communities benefit from what they have done for the day, what they have learned in their lifetime, and the experience they have to carry forward.
Guyana is observing Occupational Safety and Health Month under the theme Investing in Occupational Safety and Health Systems, Capitalizing on Safe and Healthy Working Environments in Times of Crisis. For the Newsroom, I am Sheena Henry.
In tonight's feature, we take a look at one way of traditional Guyanese crossbuns is made and a total of 36,000 vaccinated against COVID in Guyana. This is the Newsroom. A total of 36,000 persons have received their first dose of either the Sinopharm or AstraZeneca vaccines, the Minister of Health, Dr. Frank Anthony, revealed on Thursday. The country is also anticipating the arrival of 25,000 doses of the Sputnik V from Russia on Friday. Additionally, after the Easter holiday, other categories of frontline workers, such as teachers and members of the joint services, will be prioritized to be vaccinated.
Over the last 24 hours or so, the number of persons being vaccinated has risen, so we now are about 36,000 persons being immunized, at least with their first shots. Some people already have started getting their second shot, because those who have received the Sinopharm vaccine have been coming back now for their second shot. So while we are giving first doses to a lot of people, we are now being able to start doing the second dose for persons with Sinopharm, and that would continue. So those persons who would have received both doses of the Sinopharm would now be fully immunized.
As the season of Lent comes to a close for Christians around the world, the Newsroom's Daniel Swain takes a look at one way a traditional Guyanese crossbun is made and the significance behind this seasonal baked good.
Legend says that a 12th century monk was the first person to mark the bun with a cross. However, the first official record of a crossbun appears in a 16th or 7th century text stating, "Good Friday comes this month. The old woman runs with 1 or 2 a penny hot crossbuns." Traditionally eaten on Good Friday, Guyanese have always put our own special flavor into inherited traditions. The week leading up to Easter is often a battle of crossbun recipes, with locals looking to stock up for no rank on the day that marks Jesus' crucifixion. The Newsroom visited the kitchen of young Carnegie student Miss Tanis Green, owner of Chef Green's Soul Food Kitchen and Catering Services, to witness her version of the crossbun, unwittingly influenced by her late granny's recipe.
Crossbuns for me is something special. My grandmother, she was big on her crossbuns, and since she died, she passed away 13 years ago she passed away. And I haven't ate a crossbuns as good as her from since the time she passed away. So, the thing about it, we never get to get her secret ingredients for her crossbuns, because when she used to be making crossbuns, I wasn't, into being in the kitchen with her. Oh, grandma, what did you put in that? And then we wasn't expecting her to die, So we never get the same taste after then. We normally would buy different crossbuns when Easter come around, and we never get Mama crossbuns taste, So after then, I went into the whole cooking, and currently at school I'm studying at Carnegie Home of Economics. So I'm doing my catering course there, and we had to make crossbuns. So I went and I made my own very crossbuns, and it actually tastes like a grandma own. So I actually captured the taste.
The ingredients and look of crossbuns are very special. The flavors used represent the spices used to embalm Jesus at his burial, with the cross signifying his crucifixion. Capturing her grandma's taste, Chef Green shared her recipe with the newsroom, holding back her one secret ingredient.
For my crossbuns, I use a lot of spices. I love my spices. I use my nutmeg. I use my cinnamon. I use my essence. And then I have a secret ingredient that I don't want to share. That's my secret ingredients. So yeah, I'm big on my spices.
Describing the unique texture of the crossbun, Chef Green showed us how you put it all together.
Basically, you make it like it's the bread, but you flavor it with your different spices and stuff. It's more like a buns bread in between. Some people make cross tennis roll, as they would say, but it's supposed to be in between. It's not supposed to be a bread, it's not supposed to be a bunch, it's supposed to be in between,
Finally, Chef Green recommended how one eats a traditional Guyanese crossbun.
Cheese. Yes, crossbuns go great with cheese. I don't see crossbuns. Some crossbuns you can eat just like that, but crossbuns go great with cheese.
However you enjoy your local crossbuns this season, whether more tennis roll or bun-like, with cheese or butter, remember this time, Christian or not, as a much-needed time of reflection and hope.
Shahid Feroz, a young pharmaceutical chemist who studied at Bradford University in London, returned to Guyana in the late 1960s to work at a family business, Twins Pharmacy. Ripe with ambition at the time, Feroz was not satisfied with the mundane responsibilities of a pharmacist and began experimenting to produce several products, from household cleaners to food additives, medicine, and personal care items. By 1971, he started his own business, Twins Manufacturing Chemists, which is now a third-generation family business, a multi-million-dollar enterprise with a presence across the globe, and more importantly, a household name in Guyana. His daughter-in-law, Sadia Feroz, during an exclusive interview with the newsroom, tells the story of a 50-year journey and how the company responded to the needs of Guyanese during the global COVID-19 pandemic.
My name is Sadia Feroz, and I am an executive manager at the company for 31 years. I was 19 years old when I came here. I was a young girl completing UG, actually. If I remember clearly, some small passion perfumes. Yeah, that was the first I started with. My father-in-law took me under his reins, and he really taught me a lot. Because as you realize, I never worked anywhere before that. So he taught me how to answer the phone, because as a young girl, I would have the sing-song kind of voice. Hello, how can I? And he would say, no, you have to be very firm. You have to say, Good day, this is Twins Manufacturing Chemist. How can I help you? Mr. Shahid Feroz, the current managing director, he studied at Bradford University in London. He's a pharmaceutical chemist, and after he was done, he came back to Guyana to live and work. So the family business that they had at that time was Twins Pharmacy, a leading pharmacy and drugstore back in those days. So he went straight to work in that business. He was not satisfied with just counting all the tablets and, the monotonous thing of a pharmacist, just sitting counting tablets. And so he would, because of his training at university, I think he did some pharmaceutical manufacturing there. He started to play around with chemicals and raw materials and so on. So he started to make products. And some of the first products he made were the Hygienol, which is a disinfectant, the Essence, which is now branded, the Flavor Made brand of Essence, insecticide. And so he would package them in little, bottles and take them for as samples, and people would use them. And people took to it immediately. The products were really good, and they started to place little orders, maybe 6 bottles or whatever. So he started to basically manufacture right there in the drugstore, I would say. And he bought that carrier bike. That carrier bike is a signature thing with the family. They always remember that fondly. So we would say he started from humble beginnings. He basically wanted to go off on his own and start his own thing. And so he started to look for a piece of land to get into manufacturing. He got 1 bay to lease, and he started there. And so that was 50 years ago, in 1971, sometime the first week of April. They started working down here. And then he registered the company as Twins Manufacturing Chemist. So that was the day he went off on his own, and that's how this company was born. So he started with those 4 products, and as the years went by, he increased on the different product lines and different, let's say he was making mixed essence. He went into the other flavors, the disinfectants, the same thing he did. And he expanded the local market. Like I said, the products took really well to the local market. In so doing, he started to look at the export market. So within a few years, he was able to get an order from Trinidad. So our first export market was Trinidad. And Trinidad has stuck with us through all the years. Then we went to Barbados, Antigua, St. Lucia, and the other smaller island Caribbean territories. We then, later on down the year, we went to Canada and the US and England. Some European countries, they like the Essence especially. We're a manufacturing company. And I don't think anyone was prepared for the pandemic. I don't think the health sector, I don't think even first world countries, I don't think anybody was prepared for the pandemic. We have had to step up. Twins have had to step up. And we were thrown into manufacturing hand sanitizer immediately. We had to get alcohol, so we had the rubbing alcohol for sanitizing. We had the hand sanitizer that we had to make. We had disinfectants that we already had, but that increased drastically. The orders for those increased. So what happened is that we encountered some problems with raw material, because whatever raw material we had, we used it up, and then so we had some waiting time. Customers were actually getting upset with us because we couldn't keep up. Not because of our fault, but we couldn't keep up because we had to wait on alcohol, because alcohol was in demand now.
Brunch with Park Rain this Sunday and enjoy their pop-up shops, which will highlight Miss Luann Jackson's fashion. Park Rain will also host the Step by Step Foundation, as the month of April is Autism Awareness Month. All COVID-19 protocols will be observed. When the newsroom returns, the financial, weather and bridge reports along with sport. Welcome back to Newsroom. Now for a look at what's happening in sport. We're starting off with some cricket news. The former secretary of the Guyana Cricket Board, Anan Senasi, on Thursday afternoon announced that he has withdrawn his candidacy for president of Cricket West Indies. Even as he congratulated the incumbent president, Ricky Scarrett, Senasi issued a call for more financial accountability and inclusivity at the CWI level. Senasi and his running mate Calvin Hope, the vice president of the Barbados Cricket Association, had mounted a challenge to the incumbent CWI president Ricky Scarrett and vice president Dr. Kishore Shallow. However, the annual general meeting, scheduled for March 28, had to be adjourned due to a lack of quorum. The AGM was shifted to April 11 after delegates of the Guyana Cricket Board and the Barbados Cricket Association were a no-show. In a statement on Thursday, Senasi, a former CWI director, said, and I quote, "After deep reflection and consultations with my advisors, I have decided to withdraw my candidacy for presidency of CWI. I will shortly write to the corporate secretary to advise her accordingly. Consequently, I take this opportunity to extend congratulations and best wishes to Mr. Ricky Scarrett, since he will be uncontested. I urge that more deliberate efforts be made to strengthen the finances of CWI and to improve in the areas of prudent fiscal management, accountability and transparency. I also urge the greater respect to be accorded to territorial boards and that there is considerably more inclusivity in executive decision-making and corporate governance." End quote. Later on Thursday, a joint statement from Senasi and Hope, who campaigned under the theme Operation Rescue, indicated that the refusal by the leadership of CWI to uphold the highest standards, long-standing traditions and rules for governing the administration of West Indies cricket forced their withdrawal. Sri Lanka closed the penultimate day of the second and final test against West Indies on 29 without loss, facing a massive victory target of 377. Earlier, Sri Lanka, resuming on their overnight 250 for 8, added just 8 runs with Kemar Roach picking up the final 2 wickets to end with 3 for 58. West Indies, with a lead of 96, declared on 280 for 4, with skipper Craig Braffett following up his first innings century with 85. Former captain Jason Holder struck an unbeaten 7-1, while Kyle Mayers continued his good form in Test cricket with 55. Dushmanta Chamera and Suranga Lakmal took 2 wickets each for Sri Lanka, who will start the final day with a huge task of batting out time or going after the target. The first test ended in a draw. And the Guyana Cycling Federation has identified 3 dates in late May for the staging of the National Cycling Championship. However, hosting of the 3-legged race is dependent on approval from the National COVID-19 Task Force. The proposed dates are May 22, 23 and 30, with the format being time trial, senior road race and junior, female and veteran road race. On May 22, the time trial for all categories would take place on the Linden-Soestdijk Highway, covering a distance of 10 miles. Riders will roll off just after the first toll station, and the race will start on the left-hand side facing north and proceed to the junction for the finish. Race time is 7 hours 30. The following day would be the senior road race, a grueling ride from Georgetown to Linden and back to the city for the finish. That race will cover a distance of 100 miles and will feature the country's top riders, all of whom would look to claim the title of champion of the category and bragging rights for at least 1 year. The race will start in front of Bang's TIH main office, proceed 50 miles up to the Linden-Soestdijk Highway and return to the point of origin for the finish. Race time is 7 hours 30. On May 30, the junior, female and veteran riders will participate in a road race that will take place on the east coast of Demerara in the vicinity of Mahaika. The distance is yet to be determined. Race time is 7 hours 30. The Guyana Cycling Federation said registration for each event will close 30 minutes before the start time and late entrants will not be permitted to race. All rules will be enforced, especially gear restrictions for juniors, the federation added. And the Lusignan Golf Club will continue its steady competitive drive with another tournament on Saturday, the Brewster's Ice Cream Challenge. More from Akim Green.
Chet Bowling, secretary of the LGC, gave an overview of the individual tournament and some of the innovative prizes they have on offer for players.
To be a medal play, which means that we're looking at, it'll be prizes will be given to those golfers who score the best net scores. Also, there will be a prize for the best gross score. So the idea is not a team, it's an individual tournament based on the best medal play, it's called. So you look in the number of strokes, you calculate the total number of strokes, and that's what you award medals for. There'll be in addition to that, we're doing something nice, different this week, which I think is great, where it stimulates and I think it creates more interest and more participants in this tournament. So there'll be the best net score for the front nine. So if someone plays, badly on the front nine, there's also best net score on the back nine as well. So he has a chance to redeem himself. I think that's very, very interesting and unusual. Of course, there'll be a prize for, in fact, 3 prizes for the best net overall. First prize, second prize, third prize, trophies will be awarded. Also, like I mentioned, there'll be a prize for the best gross overall. Again, as you know, golf is based on your handicap, so you might have an excellent player who really plays well, but because he's such a good player, he may not win because he's very good, but overall his total score is very good. We want to recognize that. This tournament is a very inclusive tournament.
Proprietor of Brewsters, Peyton George, is also the vice president of the LGC, said the initial intention of the tournament was to be extremely inclusive for players, children and spectators. But due to COVID-19 rules, they will limit it only to the players.
The tournament was designed to be a very kid-friendly environment, but because this year is unique with the COVID situation, we are not going to have guests at the golf club. Basically, we'll just have the players there and a small contingent of necessary people there. In future years, however, we will have not just the golf tournament for the experienced players. We will have after the tournament, we'll have a drive, chip, and putting competition for kids to come out and play. And it will be open to the general public, the folks, the community of Lusignan, and anyone from outside of that community will be invited to come and participate in the tournament free of cost. And of course, we'll have nice prizes, as we will in this tournament. In addition to the normal trophies and prizes that we have, Brewsters is donating, is contributing winning vouchers to all of the winners.
In addition to the $100,000 check to the LGC, Brewsters Ice Cream also donated $50,000 towards the Calaco Learning Center. Tee-off time on Saturday is noon. For the newsroom, Akim Green.
And finally, teams at senior ICC events starting with the 2021 T20 World Cup will be allowed to take up to 7 additional players or support staff as part of the governing body's ongoing response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Last year, the ICC brought in a squad limit of 23, comprising 15 players and up to 8 staff for senior men's and women's tournaments and 20 for junior events. Countries competing at the T20 World Cup later this year, as well as the Women's 50-over World Cup in 2022, will now be able to extend their playing squads to 22 or include additional support. Enlarged squads to cover for injury and illness have become a feature of international cricket played over the last year as teams negotiate the various border control and quarantine restrictions in place around the world. The ICC's latest board meeting included an update on preparation for the men's T20 World Cup in India and referred to positive discussions between the BCCI and the Indian government around tax arrangements and visa guarantees. And with that, we've come to the end of the news for this evening. My name is Avinash Ramzan. Thanks for watching. Do have a great weekend, a safe one as well. See you back here on Tuesday.